The morning that General Eric Smith technically died started out well enough. As Commandant, he cheered on runners at the start of the annual Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. Those runners included his wife, Trish, who was doing the ultramarathon.
Went to the finish line, greeted Trish when she finished her 50K. Handed out medals to finishers, high-fiving people, taking photos, and then we came home in the late afternoon, and I went for my standard 3-mile run around the Capitol.
But General Smith never made it home. He'd been to war and back, survived being wounded in combat. But on this day, he collapsed a block from his home. What he didn't know is for all of his 58 years, he had a ticking time bomb in his chest. He was born with a faulty heart valve. What's the last thing you remember?
Going for the run.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. I don't remember going down.
At that very moment, Tim LaLonde was down the block. LaLonde was in town from Seattle to run the Marine Corps Marathon with his sister. They just finished a post-race lunch when they found General Smith unconscious.
My sister started calling 911. My dad joined us. Then we started assessing the person to see what was wrong. You could tell that they weren't breathing, they weren't responsive, so we started CPR.
Tim, who had already run an ultramarathon himself that morning, was now in a different kind of race to save a stranger's life. But he brought a very specific skill set to the task. Tim's a CPR instructor, and he immediately started doing chest compressions and kept doing them for nearly 10 minutes until an ambulance arrived.
That just renews your faith in humanity.
The general's wife, Trish, actually saw the commotion a block from their home.
Just remember thinking to myself, oh, they're transporting somebody. Little did I know that that was him.
Hours later, she and the general's staff found him at a Washington hospital.
I was kind of in shock, but I just know that he's a strong person and he was going to make it.
Before she arrived, the nation's top Marine had been treated as a John Doe patient because none of the medical staff knew his identity. Dr. Thomas McGillivray is one of the heart doctors who treated him.
All of this happened to a John Doe. It wasn't as if General Smith got special treatment because he's the Commandant of the Marine Corps. Tim didn't know who he was. The people in the EMS didn't know who he was. No one in the hospital knew who he was until he had gone through all of this and his life was saved.
A life-saving chain of events started by a stranger from Seattle. You saved the general's life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that helped contribute, and I'm very proud of my family and how everyone responded.
You're very humble. But you saved the general's life.
Yes, one of the people.
General Smith sharing that he's forever thankful for the aid he received that day.
Well, I'll try not to get choked up here because that'd be un-Marine-like. But it makes me appreciate what I have all the more. It makes me appreciate my wife, my children, you know, all the Marines. It makes you appreciate the goodness of society.
We were there when the general and Trish got to meet him for the first time.
General Smith.
How are you?
It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Tim.
Hey, Tim, Eric.
Nice to meet
really good to meet you.
Yeah.
Really good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
This is my wife,
Mind
Trish.
if I hug you, Tim? I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Tim, the general here, he said he thought you were probably going to be a big guy because the compression. So.
I'm just motivated.
I mean, the story is remarkable on so many levels.
Sure.
Because think about this.
The timing.
Had they gone to a different restaurant for lunch, had they left earlier, left later, it's not lost on the general, by the way. I mean, he knows that he is lucky to be alive.
Just imagining that scene of him unconscious, alone, on the ground.
Yeah.
Anybody could happen upon him.
That a CPR trainer happened.
And for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Like, that's another thing. I mean, that is...
And by the way, he said that was the first time he'd ever used a CPR training.
Wow. Really?
First time ever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We all have to learn, don't we? It's one of those things
That's one of the things you should
about on the
refresh.
show.
You know, like you learn it once and like you almost do it every year and just remind yourself how to do that.
And when you go out, you should have your ID with you.
Oh, yes. That was
General,
that was
thank you. I want to thank the general
Absolutely.
because he wanted to tell the story to Carson's point, encourage folks to get CPR service.
Yeah, it was great. Wow.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.